Hey, you guys, welcome back. And I am here with another message. And this message is going to be pertaining to something that many of us are experiencing, have experienced, or will experience at a point in our lives, okay? Especially when you are someone who is having a awakening to something, okay? Many of us are learning new things about ourselves. We're learning new things such as about the people that we are around and different things of that sort, okay? So one of the most hard and difficult things for people to deal with and to try to figure out exactly what the heck is going on in your life, okay? And I too have been an individual who was there throughout my life where there was a point before I actually decided to go on my healing journey. Okay, there were things that I began to find out about the people around me, things that were happening around me in general that were quite odd. And many of these things, unfortunately, kind of sent me to a place that many of us have been, where we are totally confused and mind blown as to what the hell is happening right now. Okay? Like, seriously, where you are so confused about the nature of the relationships that you have, the people that you're around, and much of this confusion happens because there is something that is happening within you, okay? When you are an individual, I'm going to say this. When you are an individual who is led to grow in certain areas of your life, sometimes when we hold on to the walls and we refuse to grow in certain areas in our lives, what tends to happen is we're forced to grow. Okay, so we're not going to stop aging, you guys. And this is the thing about growth, right? We're never going to stop aging regardless of how much we want to remain at a certain age or a certain stage in our lives, right? So when we begin to have these things where life is forcing us to grow in certain areas, there are going to be situations where your growth becomes threatening to people who are around you, okay? And then there are going to be some issues that are going to occur with your growth process, okay? Now, some of these things that are going to occur is there are going to be people who are not going to be supportive of the fact that you want to grow because of the fact, or you are growing. And that's a different topic in its entirety. When you are growing and you just begin to identify the immaturity of people who are amongst you, you're beginning to identify, certain things that is no longer funny anymore, and some of you guys, like, I know, like, when you are amongst certain people that you've like joked around and you said certain things and you still may do those things, but then there's some instances where some things are just, like they're not funny anymore. It's like, okay, yeah. I'm starting to feel like a little bit of discomfort now, where you feel yourself kind of, departing from certain people and certain things that are happening. Then there's another point where you begin to identify things such as the flaws in people that are amongst you. And I'm not talking about where we're not accepting people for every single aspect of them, okay? What I'm talking about is when we can identify that this person is really a good person. Like, this is when you're forced to grow, and it is so difficult when you're actually forced to do the things that you don't really want to do. Some of us shrink often to still be in relationships with people such as our family members, our friends, and different people that we just enjoy spending our time with. These people, we know these people are very familiar to us. And a lot of the struggle that typically happens, especially when it comes to something that is very severe, many of you guys have felt, or experienced a point in your lives where you were betrayed by people who were really close to you, okay? And betrayal, oftentimes, when people are in denial, many of us are and have been in the stage of denial where we don't want to believe that this person isn't, capable of doing certain things, or a person could be this cruel, and sometimes when we are in situations like that, we would try to force ourselves to be in relationships with the person that we know, in fact, are not a good person, and what tends to happen is we will begin to feel again this thing where you're growing and you're in this tight little space and it becomes overwhelming, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it's like you literally cannot take it anymore with this whole dynamic. And many of us again have felt this way with family members, friends, and people that we've allowed to, be in our lives. But what I want you guys to understand is this, is that when you are someone who is experiencing something different, not just the way that you feel about things, but now you're starting to get awareness as to the kind of people that you're truly around, is for you not to be so hard on yourself. Okay? And to understand that it can be really tough as an individual to break away from things that you are so familiar with. And to understand that time waits for no one. Okay? And even when we want to pause time and we want to stay there and we just want to stay in the moment, that there's something that is going to happen that is going to thrust you into that crossroad. Because that's what life is about. Okay? It's about us making a decision to grow, and sometimes we don't really have the choice to. Some of us actually have been through something that was extremely traumatic in our lives. I know it wasn't easy for me. I actually was thrust into it forcefully. So a lot of the changes that I decided to make in my life throughout the years that I've been on this journey, it wasn't necessarily a choice, but there was an option and I chose to keep going. Okay, so know this, that the confusion and everything that you are feeling today, the fear that some of you guys may be feeling, and the sadness with having to make that decision, because it is a sad thing when when you're wanting to move on, wanting to move forward. But loyalty, kind of, it gets us sometimes. Just to sit and really think about things, and to also have a mindset of sometimes the changes that we need to make in our lives aren't always optional, but we're thrust in those changes, and to accept the things that we cannot change. I love you guys. Bye.